Guys, welcome back to another episode of Road Runners Unfiltered. Super excited that it's game week. Finally it's here. UTSA versus U of H takes place this weekend in Houston as the Road Runners try to capture their first victory of the season. There's a lot to unpack, but before we get into all that, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Just 50 subs away from our milestone of 500. So make sure you like the video because it helps out the algorithm so more UTSA fans can get a hold of this channel and join the community. So the question that I'm going to try to answer for you guys here is, what is UTSA up against in this Houston Cougars team led by Coach Dana Holmgren? So they finished last season with an 8-5 record, and they just had some really inconsistent play if you look at their season last year. They threw the ball across the yard a bunch. They averaged 314 yards per game through the air, but there was also a heavily penalized team too. There's a crazy stat out there about how much they were penalizing. They gave up somewhere around 915 yards due to penalty last year. And when you compare that to the opponents they played, cumulatively, their opponents gave up 395 yards of penalties against them. So when you look at that, they were penalized more than 2 times more than their opponent was. But what doesn't help this case is they lost so much of their experience. A lot of the guys that was the bell cows and the money makers for them left, whether it be transferring out the program or moving on to the next level to play. They lost Clayton Tune, who was an excellent quarterback for them, to the NFL. He moved on and now he's playing on Sundays. But that dude was a huge producer for that offense, and he was the main catalyst in touchdowns for that team. And then they lost Tank Dell, who they didn't lose him to another city. He's playing for the Houston Texans now, but he's not playing for the Houston Cougars. He led the FBS in receiving yards, I believe, last season. So those are 2 people that you just can't replace overnight. That's going to be key for U of H as they embark on this season. But they're going up against the Road Runners in the first game. That's going to be the problem for them. So they're going to try, and I have no doubt they always are able to reload with really good receivers and really good talent at the quarterback position. And they brought in this kid from Texas Tech, Donovan Smith, I believe his name is, and he is most certainly got some talent, but it's going to take him time to adjust and build some in-game chemistry with his new teammates. That's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be an overnight thing. They can still be dangerous because Houston is always dangerous because they are just great at putting points on the board no matter who's at the helm. But they're going to have to go through some growing pains to get there. And we're definitely going to see some of those growing pains come Saturday. So now the question is, what is UTSA bringing into the game, right? 15 to 16 starters when you combine offense and defense. You're bringing back a quarterback who's been here for a long time. He's one of the best players in the country in Frank Harris, who has just a ton of experience. He is resilient through adversity, and he's probably going to be the conference player of the year in his first year in the AAC, or in UTSA's first year in the AAC. That's what UTSA is bringing in. Now, there's a lot of talk about Zachary Franklin being his transfer to Ole Miss, but we still have JT Clark returning, who's going to be huge and may lead our team in a lot of the receiving statistics this particular season. And then you got Joshua Cephas, who's returning, who has been just a great receiver at UTSA for years. So that's what's coming to you on offense. And not to mention, you have an offensive line who showed some improvements as the season progressed last season. And then you got Kavorian Barnes, who's one of the best young backs, I think, in the country right now in terms of the total package that he presents. He presents he presents physicality, he presents breakaway speed, and he's shifty in terms of evading defenders in the pocket whenever he needs to. So that's what UTSA is bringing offensively. Defensively, Defense had an okay season last year, but you got Rashad Wisdom, who's returning from injury. We lost him last year halfway through the year, which was a huge loss to our defense because he's been the captain and the leader for that defense for the last couple of years. You still have Jamal Liggin, who led the team in tackles last year, who's playing that inside linebacker role. You have Trey Moore, who's also playing this kind of tweener role for UTSA. You got Brandon Brown on that defensive line. You got a lot of experience, and you got a lot of guys who have been in the trenches together. They have rose above adversity together. That's what UTSA is bringing. And I am not trying to drum this all the way up to say that UTSA is – I'm not trying to put us on a pedestal here, but that's the reality of what this looks like. You got U of H, a team that is trying to rebuild from losing a lot of their key players last year. You have UTSA, who's returning a lot of the key players this year. That's really what this game breaks down to when you look at these teams objectively, in my opinion anyway, with a little bit of UTSA bias. All right, as for my prediction, I'm going UTSA 38, U of H 24. I think UTSA kicks off the season with a bang, and they win this game. And I don't think it'll be an easy game because Houston is going to fight. We have a bit of a kind of a rivalry with this team, and I think they're going to eventually challenge us in this particular game. But I think the experience and the explosivity that we have on offense is going to be the factor. I think that because of the in-game chemistry that Frank has with everybody on that offense pretty much, it's going to be easier for him and that offense to get going earlier in the game. Obviously, these guys, it's first game of the season, so there's going to be some rust that needs to be dusted off and things like that. But I think with UTSA, it's going to be maybe a drive or two before we start to get things rolling. And we could just pop out the first drive and start off strong that way as well because we have that experience and that in-game chemistry already. That's one thing that I'm going to lean on, and I think we'll grow throughout the game and we'll be able to put up 38 points offensively. As far as the 24 points and how Houston will get to that 24 points, I think Houston – I think they're going to grow into the game. They do this quite a bit under Holmgren. They grew into the game last year. If you remember, they had 7 points, I believe, in the first half in last season whenever we played them. And obviously the overtime inflated the score a little bit, but they start scoring. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So I could see them doing a similar thing. They have a really good place kicker who can kick a field goal, make field goals. So that's why I went with 24. I'm sure he's going to get an opportunity. But I ultimately think that new quarterback it's just going to take time for him to get comfortable playing with these guys against a live defense, you know, with a lot of that pressure on him. He'll have the crowd on his side, but it's just a lot to be up against, quite frankly, whenever you think about what UTSA is bringing to this game. So I think we win this game relatively comfortably. I think Houston will make a late surge, but I think it'll be a little bit too late. UTSA is going to run away with this one, 38-24. I think a 2-touchdown differential is appropriate for where I think Houston is at this point. I think we're going to be a just overall better team than them this year, considering what they're up against. Quite frankly, I think they're going to be fighting to get a bowl game, but they'll probably win, you know, anywhere from 6 to 7 games this season. Whereas I think UTSA will be in that 10 to 11 game spot this year. I am super excited for this season, and I'm super excited about the content we're going to be bringing. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.